Hello, everyone. This is just letting you know that we're going to be starting here in about 8 minutes. It's right now 11:52 a.m. So in about 8 more minutes, we'll be getting started. Hello to everybody on YouTube as well. So again, once we get started, um, the presentation is on Zoom. So if you do have questions for Adronis, please feel free to pop on to Zoom. There's still room available, and you can just look at the YouTube super chat. The link is there for the presentation. So again, if you want to pop on to Zoom, it is still available. So I'll be getting started here in about 7 or 8 minutes time. Thank you. Okay, so everybody, we're going to be getting started here in just 1 minute's time. For those of you who are participants on Zoom, I'm just going to show you exactly what the process will be for you to ask questions. Zach Hayter is going to be the moderator for today's event. And basically, when you want to ask an audio-based question, when Adronis pops in for Q&A, you would basically just press the raise hand button. Okay, so all of you that are on the participants chat right now on Zoom, if you want to go ahead and just click the raise hand button. Okay, just so you know where it is. All right. And you should just be able to see the raise hand button as a blue button just right beside your name. Okay. This is just for those of you who want to have audio questions for Adronis. Okay, so everybody that's on the participants chat here on Zoom, go ahead and just click on the raise hand button if you haven't done that already. Right. So if you get that, that's perfectly good for you. Okay, that's just for audio-based questions, and you can lower hand as well too. You can press the lower hand button once you're done. Okay. So again, there'll be two ways that Q&A will be happening. First is by audio-based questions. Zach will basically hover over your name, and he'll press a button called Allow to Talk, and then you'll be able to come in and you'll be able to ask an audio question to Adronis. And the second option is being able to use the Q&A app or the Q&A button just at the bottom of the chat here. So you can type in your questions through the Q&A app button there, and Zach will take turns kind of going between the audio questions and the text-based questions. Okay, so as we have quite a few participants today, we will just have a maximum of 3 questions per person. Okay, so that's a maximum of 3 questions per person. For those of you that are still watching on YouTube, there still is space. If you guys want to, again, click on the link that is in the YouTube super chat. I posted to attend Zoom, go to us2webzoom.us, that link there. Okay, you can click on that if you still want to ask and interact with Adronis today. So again, I just want to get that clear for everybody who do want to interact with Adronis, because a lot of people have fun connecting with him in that way. Also, this is a free webinar, so I do appreciate donations if donations are something that you want to give. All right, so you can use the YouTube super chat to donate, or you can just go to the website newearthteachings.com and just go to the donate page, and you can donate through PayPal. Okay, so that's appreciative. This is the last free webinar. Okay, so we're going to be doing another webinar at the end of August, and that is going to be a paid webinar. That's basically just $5 per person for admission. And all of that money is really going towards the mind deck. Okay, so it's going to the Healing Code Cards mind deck, because it does cost quite a bit of money for me to print out the mind deck cards. So basically for our monthly webinars after this one, will be paid webinars, and that income will be going towards printing off the mind deck. Okay, because the mind deck will be launching here at the end of September. So we'll have the body deck, right? And of course, we will also have the mind deck. The mind deck is also 36 cards. So that is just helping to get the mind deck printed through the proceeds that go towards the next webinar that will be happening at the end of August. Okay, so stay tuned for more information. Adronis will be coming through again for the next webinar next month. And I'll have more details on that as we get into the month of August. All right. Okay, guys. So Zach, if you want to pop on, if you want to say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And Brad, just so you know, I think I might need some kind of authorization to raise and down.
Yep. Okay, let me just double check that here. Okay, yeah, what I'll do is I'll just make you a co-host. 1 second.
Cool.
Okay, so you're now a co-host. Are you able to hover over their names and see the allow to talk?
Got it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, great. Excellent. So Zach is with us once again. I think he'll always be our moderator every month.
Awesome.
So yeah, he's done a great job. So thank you again, Zach, for being here. So everybody, what we're going to do firstly is we're just going to warm ourselves up with guided meditation. All right. And after the guided meditation, I'll be giving a little bit of an introduction about Adronis talking about Between the Worlds today. And then I'll be bringing in Adronis. He'll give the presentation. Then after the presentation, we'll be going right into the Q&A. And then you guys, if you have questions, audio-based or Q&A-based through text, then you can feel free to present them. So again, it's a maximum of 3 questions per person. Okay, so if you're on audio, you can ask Adronis 3 questions. Or if you want to kind of break it up, if you want to ask 2 questions by audio and 1 question in the Q&A, you can do that as well too. Okay, that's fine. But just a 3-question maximum for everybody, because we do have quite a lot of participants on here. We want to try and give people a chance to talk to Adronis as well too. Okay. All right, so let's get ourselves nice and relaxed, nice and comfortable. All right, making sure your body is free of any tension. Right, we're going to warm up the youth body. Right, get into the divine youth body here today. All right, and that's really going to be the nature of our practice. We're going to ground ourselves first, and then we're going to do a youth body guided meditation. All right. So again, getting yourself nice and comfortable, placing your hands upon the center of your chest, taking a deep breath in, a deep breath out. Once again, deep breath in, deep breath out. And one more time, deep breath in, and deep breath out. And just relaxing and breathing normally. Okay. You guys know the drill of this. If you're doing the BCR technique regularly, you guys doing your BCR technique? All right. Make sure you are. That helps you big time. All right. So now that we have got ourselves into a nice neutral, relaxed state of being, we're now just going to focus on our body right now. I just want you to focus yourself from the top of your head, going all the way down to the bottom of your feet. Okay. And I just want you to be fully aware of every inch of your body. And just holding that impression of your body within your mind. And now I just want you to move your attention and awareness down to the base of your spine. And we're going to see roots coming out of the base of the spine, those black etheric roots, flowing down the legs, going down the bottom of the feet, and now going deeply into the earth. So just anchoring those black etheric roots from the base of your spine, going through the bottom of your feet, and going deeply into the earth. And with those roots going deeply into the earth, with the impression of your body and your mind, I want you just to be aware, like you're just doing a scan from the top of your head, going all the way down to the bottom of your feet. And if there's any tension, if there's any stress, if there's any aches or pains or soreness, I want you just to gather that energy like it's black liquid and just putting it into the base of the spine. And as you put it into the base of the spine, you're just seeing that black liquid pour out down through the etheric roots. And all of that black liquid is now going through the etheric roots and going deeply into the earth with the intention for Mother Earth to clear all of that debris consciousness, black liquid, from your being altogether. All right. So you're just saying to Mother Earth, this is the debris that I no longer wish to have. Please clear it for me and bring it into love. Okay. So you're just feeling all of that energy now going deeply into the earth. And again, we'll take another deep breath in, deep breath out. All right. And now we're going to go into our own void, go into our own mental space. All right. And while you're in your void, your mental space, I want you to imagine within your mind a younger version of you. Okay. So maybe it's your 20-year-old self. Maybe it's a 19, 18, 17-year-old self. Okay. Basically, just making yourself kind of a young adult or a teenager. All right. We're not looking to go back into childhood because we're not looking to become a child body again. All right. We're just looking into, I'd say, between the 17 to 22-year-old range. That would be the recommendation. All right. So just that young teenager, young adult self. All right. But there is, of course, the mind of the child, the mind of the innocence, the mind of the infant within ourselves. So I just want you to picture that version of you within your mind. Okay. So you're just seeing that holographic representation of the youth body. Now that youth body is in the causal plane. All right. So I'm going to teach you guys about how you can go into the causal plane. to work together much more lucidly and much more malleably with your youth body. All right. So, again, as you're seated comfortably, I want you to imagine that your spine is a coil, okay, like a spring. Now, I want you to focus on the base of your spine because we're going to go up to the causal plane and we're going to meet with our younger youth body self. All right. So now I just want you to focus on the sacrum, the base of the spine, and you're just seeing a coil like a spring, and you're moving counterclockwise upwards through this coil. Now, the goal is to feel that you're moving counterclockwise upwards like a spring until you reach the very top of your head. Okay? This is you uncoiling yourself, going into the causal plane. Right? So, right now, take a deep breath in, deep breath out, and talk to Spirit right now. Say, Spirit, take me to the causal plane. Spirit, take me to the causal plane. And now feel that counterclockwise spiral, that uncoiling of yourself, just as if we were to uncoil a spring. Okay. And you're moving your energy up all the way up to the top of your head. You may start to vibrate. Okay. You may actually start to feel the sensation of you uncoiling yourself. It's almost kind of like a Kundalini experience with the serpents uncoiling themselves, moving up the spine. Well, all we're doing here is it's kind of like going up a spiraling staircase. Or again, we're uncoiling that spring and we're just going up to the top of our head. And we're at the top of our head, we're moving up into the causal. Okay. So you are firstly telling Spirit, take me to the causal plane. You're feeling that unraveling, that uncoiling of yourself as you move up the dimensions, moving up past the physical dimension, moving up past the astral dimension, and moving up into the causal dimension. Okay. Causal is where the Akashic records are. Okay. That's where all memory in the universe is stored, in the causal plane. So once you're feeling that uncoiling, it's like you're just going through a ray of white light. Okay, like a ray of white light is meeting you at the very top, just past the top of your head. And there's like an explosion of white light. And as that white light starts to dissipate, you are now in the causal plane. And you're now able to work together with this youth body. Okay, if you can't visualize that too well, don't worry about it. Just feel that you're going up into this white light. This white light is just taking you inside of it. It's exploding into this great brightness. And now you're moving into the causal plane. Okay, and the causal plane looks exactly like your surroundings right now. Okay, it's not a different location. It's exactly where you are right now. If you're sitting at a desk in your front room, then that's where you are in the causal. You're sitting at your desk in the front room. Okay. So all these different dimensions are. They're just layers. They're layers and they're veils existing simultaneously in the space to which we occupy right now. Okay. But things get lighter. You have a lighter depth perception now. You have a much more greater depth perception as you're in the causal plane. Right. So your feelings are a lot more malleable and your ideas are a lot more malleable. Now, as you move into the causal plane now, you are seeing just opposite side of you, right? With your eyes closed still, you're seeing your younger youth body, okay? Which I refer to as just your divine youth body. So he or she is sitting right across from you, very, very close to you as well. And I want you to take your hands and place it in theirs, okay? I want you to take your hands and place it into your divine youth body's hands. All right. So for those of you that want to work with the divine youth body, this is one tactic, one technique that we can use to do that. All right. And I just want you to, as you take the divine youth body's hands, just to scan them. As soon as you touch their hands, their body is now your body. So now you're scanning them. You're feeling how healthy they are. You're feeling their vitality. You're feeling their youth. You're feeling their beauty, right? You're feeling their purity. You're feeling their cleanliness. You're feeling their perfection. You're feeling their happiness, right? And you are intending that through feeling, not through thought, but through feeling, that what you feel through the youth body, you choose to feel through yourself. All right. So as you start the process of feeling their youth, their beauty, their purity, their cleanliness, their perfection, their happiness, you're feeling that in yourself. As you feel that in yourself, the youth body now merges as an overlay to your physical body. Okay. So there's your current physical body, and then there's the divine youth body. So the divine youth body is now integrating him or herself directly into your body, and they are overlaid. Okay. And I want you just to continue to feel, not to think, but to feel the youth body inside you, right? It's like another layer that has been perfectly positioned and overlaid upon your physical body. And so now you are looking at this divine youth body. You now realize that there is a spiritual joy body that resides within you, ever young, ever beautiful, ever pure, ever clean. That you have a beautiful mind, beautiful hair, beautiful eyes, beautiful nose, mouth, ears, skin, face, chest, abdomen, legs, arms, shoulders. The divine youth body, which here and now, in this very moment, is perfect. I want you just to take a minute right now, and I want you just to keep feeling that. Get excited about what you're feeling with your youth body, because this is now coming into the effect of your physical body. Your physical body is going to receive the effects of what you're feeling with your youth body right now. Okay. You're going to feel that glistening skin. All right. How does that make you feel? That makes me feel happy. I love having glistening skin. Great. You're going to feel your hair getting restored. You're going to feel it getting thicker. All right. How does that feel? Feels great. Maybe I have a little bit of hair thinness in that way. And I'm now just envisioning my hair getting thicker. If there's gray in the hair, I'm seeing it now turning back into the natural color of my youth. Right? How does that make you feel? Feels great. Okay. Your nose can smell perfectly through the nostrils. Okay. Sinuses are in perfect condition. Your ears can hear perfectly. Okay. Your mouth has all the taste buds returning back to the tongue. Feels great. Right? So again, your body, your chest feels good. Back feels good. Abdomen feels good. Okay, legs feel good. Everything feels great. Phenomenal, fantastic, perfect. And you want to maintain that feeling. Okay. So this is where we're working with the whole body. Okay. So the divine youth body is completely in alignment with our whole current body. And we're constantly feeling the joy of being young. We're constantly feeling the joy of having a divine youthful body. All right. So you're holding that energy in. And as you're in the causal plane, this comes in quicker, right? The malleability, the more that you stay within the causal plane, the longer that this will hold, right? And you're actually going to notice some really quick effects taking place in the physical body, the more that you stay in the causal plane, right? And you stay in the causal plane by upholding that frequency, upholding that vibration of you being in great joy with the divine youth body. Okay. That's what you're up in the causal plane for. You're just there for the divine youth body. Okay. So I'm going to give you guys another minute, and then we're going to come back down to physical reality. But all you have to do is just repeat this exercise to go back up into the causal plane. And you can work with the divine youth body there as well, too, for as often as you like. All right. So let's have 1 minute of silence, and then we'll move back into the physical plane, beginning now. Okay, so that is 1 minute. So now with your intention, I just want you to feel like you're again unraveling yourself and coiling back into the physical plane. Okay, so if we move counterclockwise to go upwards to the causal plane, we're now moving clockwise to come back down. So we're basically uh, unraveling ourselves back into the base of the spine. Okay, so we're going down the staircase right now. Okay. We're coiling up the spring. So I just want you to feel that very slowly, taking your own time, just feeling yourself compressing back down into the physical plane, returning back into the physical moment. Okay, and as you do that, you just take a deep breath in, deep breath out. And you're just receiving everything that you acquired from the causal plane because that's still with you. Okay. Divine youth body is still with you. Divine youth body is still working with you. You were able to go up into the causal plane and vividly feel those deep feelings with how the divine youth body feels to you. And now you're just maintaining those feelings for as long as you can, each and every day. All right. So if you're taking a break, if you're driving, go into those feelings. Say, oh my God, it felt so good to have that kind of skin. It felt so good to have that kind of body. I remember those feelings, and I'm just feeling those feelings as I'm driving. I'm feeling those feelings as I'm walking. I'm feeling those feelings as I'm laying down, as I'm sitting down, right? This, of course, also works good. This is, of course, the divine youth body symbol, the healing code symbol, all right? So again, that's a booster. That helps as well, too. You can still continue to work with that. That is in the YouTube video channel, or my YouTube video channel, with the youth body symbol, okay? You can use that as well, too. That helps also. Working with the affirmations from Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, Volume 1, that too also helps, all right? It's just a matter of knowing 100% that you are the youth body, and you will maintain that, okay? All right, guys, very good. So that is just the beginning meditation I wanted to bring forward to you guys before I bring Adronis in, and he talks about between the worlds. So again, as he talks about between the worlds, he is going to be talking about different dimensions. In the previous webinar, we were talking about the universal ladder. He was talking about how you're moving up and down the ladder in that way. Right now, we're kind of looking at the in-between. We're looking at different realities. We're looking at the Fey realms. We're looking at other different forms of realities that simultaneously coexist with us here and now. How to access different levels of consciousness as you go in between worlds, how the flow relating to space and time operates, and how we are able to move in between that flow of space and time, and working with space and time as an ally to where space and time work for you and you don't work for it. Okay. So Adronis is going to be elaborating on those things. So I will go ahead now and take a moment to connect with Adronis. And again, once he is done with the presentation, Adronis will call in Zach, and then we'll begin with the Q&A after the presentation. So everybody, enjoy the presentation with Adronis. I will go ahead and connect with him now, and we'll begin. Tera. Soul Star. Sirius. Adronis. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. What we'd like all of you to do at this time is simply allow yourselves to get relaxed, get comfortable, and tune in to the vibrations of Sirius so that you may synchronize, harmonize, and align to all of the information that we have to share. Also, understand that all of the information that we shall provide today is simply that of our perspective, our point of view. For all knowledge, all information, all creation itself resides within your very hearts, beings, and souls. Living between the worlds. In the best way that we can demonstrate this is very much how we are able to come together and connect with you, is that we are going in between our world, connecting directly to your world as well. Now, the dimension in which we occupy in your perspective would simply be that of light, which means you could not see anything with your physical eyes. You could not smell anything with your physical nose. You could not hear anything with your physical ears. You could not taste anything with your physical mouth, other than the idea in that sense of possibly being burnt. You could not have any particular forms of physical touch with this light. It would simply pass through. But when you are able to adjust and align yourself to our frequency, you see indeed a beautiful world. For we reside within the star of Sirius A. That is where we exist. It is a dimension, not so much as you would term a world to which you would understand, but it is a realm. It is a plane of consciousness. Although it appears as a world, it is much more in the idea of existing upon a plane. And through this plane, you would look at this very similar to what you would term as your kaleidoscope type vision. And through this kaleidoscope type vision, you are able to see a multitude of different realities. And we refer to this as the spheres of consciousness. And that through this kaleidoscope vision, we are able to move into any particular dimension through our own intent, through our own thought, and being able to connect into the phenomena, the criteria, the content existing within that appropriate dimension. That is how we exist. And so it is very kaleidoscope in nature. It is a multitude of spheres of consciousness. It is, as you would say, multiple layers of different screens and overlays that we have the ability to navigate, simply because we do not exist in linear space and time as you do. What you have primarily done is given much of your own consciousness and consensus relating to linear space and time, that you operate through the idea of the appearance of linearity within your reality. That you're able to sit at your desk, you're able to stand up, you're able to open up your door, you're able to go into your car, you're able to drive. That all represents a particular sequence. You could refer to that as a single task, but in that way, what you have just done is actually going through billions of different worlds every single moment. So within fractions of a second, you're going through all these different worlds just to do something like that, to get up from your chair, to walk to your front door, to open the front door, to go to your car, to start the engine. So that was involving billions and billions of different realities simultaneously. But because you are existing in a condensed reality pertaining to physicality, it all seems very streamlined. It all feels very seamless in that way. Now, when you are looking through this reality in the kaleidoscope point of view that we have shared, you're actually looking at all these different possibilities here and now. That you're actually looking into all these different realities that you could actually go through, enter into. It's like looking at pockets of reality. And those pockets of reality can take you into different dimensions. You can go into Earths that are very, very similar to the one that you are familiar with, or you can go into other Earths that may be much more enriching, that can be filled with light, as it were, where you are able to witness people within that dimensional Earth flying through the air because their consciousness has elevated themselves to the degree where the collective consensus says this is indeed possible. We can levitate, we can fly through the air, we can walk on water just like your Jesus did. We can instantly teleport to another place and time. So all of these natural consciousness abilities through that particular dimension is therefore accepted by the whole. You can even go into deeper, or as you would say, darker dimensions, where there is a great deal of war, where there is a great deal of suffering, even much more to the extreme than what you have experienced on this sphere. Nonetheless, of wherever you go based upon the state of contrast, everything relating to those realities are simultaneously coexistent, which means that with you experiencing higher elevations of luminous earth dimensions or lower shadowy aspects of earth dimensions, they work like a scale. So even though you may not be able to perceive those realities that are luminous or that are shadowy, there is a scale relating to their coexistence together with you. This is exactly how you are able to exist within the timeline that you do. It is actually thanks to all of these other different coexistent dimensions of reality that are balancing themselves on this particular scale, which means, for example, you may start to have a lot more luminosity coming upon your planet right now because people are uplifting themselves. What that means is that these pockets of different dimensions are growing. They're becoming, in that sense, thinner, relating to the state of the veil to which you understand reality to be. Again, you're looking at this through the kaleidoscope vision as we have. And so as you start to uplift yourselves a lot more into brotherly, sisterly love, you're working together a lot more, while those particular forms of dimensions start to swell. They swell, they start to get larger, and their imprint within your dimension becomes a lot more prevalent, which means their veil starts to thin. And so as their veil starts to thin, those of you who are opening yourselves up spiritually, opening yourselves up intuitively, working with spirit very strongly, will actually start to see these other particular realities, these different dimensions, where you're seeing people fly through the air, where you're seeing floating cities in the sky, where you may actually start to see cities coming out of the oceans. You may actually start to see cities embedded in the mountains. It's the feeling like they are there, but they're not there. While in their own respective reality, they're there. In your reality, it's like looking at this through a lens. And that's what's happening. So, for example, if you were going into a greater decline, a greater plummeting to where there is a great deal of suffering and fear, then you'd be seeing a lot more dimensions that are coalescent together with that shadowy impression. But that's not where you're going. You're actually moving much more upwards into luminosity. And through these luminous dimensional earths that are working together with you, everything feeds the whole. So you have to see this kaleidoscope vision similarly to how you would see a beehive, honeycombs in that way, because it's a honeycomb earth that you live on. It's not a flat earth. It's not a round earth. It's a honeycomb earth. That's the geometry of the planet, and that's simply the truth. All right. As we stated, everything we share here is our perspective, our point of view. But from our perspective, our point of view, the truth is you live upon a honeycomb earth. It is honeycomb. It is the idea of hexagonal cells that make up the idea of a geometry of something that appears somewhat spherical. All right, that's the nature of your planet. That's how all planets appear, every single one of them. All right. But it's not just a planet that you're looking at. It's a plane. It's a, shall we say, base of reality to where you exist. Because many of you will feel that, oh, we cannot wait to get to other planets. You are going to experience very different themes should you decide to go to those other worlds. They'll be very, very different from what you understand the Earth existence is. And you do not have any public record currently of being on any other planet. Not Mars, not the moon. All right? There are no public records relating to that. Much of that has to do with doctored material, basically replicating your own aspect of your own planet to give the impression that you've gone to Mars. Publicly, no, you haven't. To publicly go to the moon. Publicly, no, you haven't. Now, have there been other humans that have gone to Mars and have gone to the moon? Yes, they have, but they have not talked about it. All right. This is highly under wraps. The idea of what you term as your satellites going onto other planets in that sense and returning data. No, they haven't done this. That too is doctored information. Venus, for example, is nothing like what your scientists say it is. It is not a planet that is spewing so much heat that it could melt lead. No, Venus is very Earth-like. Now, the idea with many of these other planets is that they have veils upon them. So again, this is still being between the worlds. Many of these planets have holograms upon it. Many of you are familiar with the ripple effect that you experience upon your moon, for there have been videos of amateur astronomers taking footage of the moon and actually seeing this blip or this ripple effect that actually travels down the moon. Well, of course, because it's holographic. There is a veil there, something that you're not supposed to see. It's not just the idea of what's behind the moon, but what's on the moon entirely. And much of that is being hidden from you at this particular time. Will it be revealed in time? Absolutely. Once humanity moves more into becoming a galactic race rather than just a planetary race. The same thing goes with Mars. The same thing goes with Jupiter. The same thing goes with Saturn, etc. Many of the planets are veiled right now holographically. They're like curtains or drapes that are placed upon the planets right now so that you do not see what's actually going on because you couldn't even really perceive it at this point. And so it will act as if these worlds are lifeless. In fact, there are many planets in your neighboring star system that do this. They veil themselves because there are astronomers, there are scientists who are able to view these planets. Now, some of them in that sense will appear as exospheres, as you say, or the idea of exoplanets, because yes, these are indeed worlds that you will be visiting at some particular point, and they're not within, as you would say, the neighborhood range to having to be veiled, simply because humanity at this particular point cannot reach them. And they're under, in that sense, different levels of jurisdiction. So they are, in that sense, completely able to show themselves in that way, and that is deliberate. It's to letting you know that there are other Earth-like planets that exist. Now, as we were talking about the idea with the Earth, that it is, in that sense, a honeycomb world. And through this honeycomb world, everything balances itself out. So where you become a lot more of a luminous society, where you start to uplift yourself, you start to move a great deal of love forward, regardless of what's happening in your collective mainstream approach. That doesn't matter. It's yourselves that matter. So as you start to feel the love and compassion you have for yourself and for others, you now start to, again, swell these other particular dimensions that are becoming a lot more loose relating to the veil effect in between them. So again, what's happening is that, again, as we stated, it is like a scale system. The more that you are able to bring yourself up into a higher state of love energy, that scale will shift. And you'll notice that there will be a thinness upon your planet where you'll actually start seeing these coexisting dimensions. Again, very much like kaleidoscope vision, or the idea of many different pictures on top of one another in regards to the idea of exposed frames. These will happen depending upon the energy of consciousness that you bring into yourselves and that you bring into each other and that you bring upon the planet. In fact, if every single human being on this planet was very luminous, you would be looking through kaleidoscope vision all the time because everything would be around you. You could go and you can transport yourself instantly from New York City all the way to New Delhi, from New Delhi all the way down to Sydney, Australia, from Sydney, Australia, all the way up into Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Just like that, just like that, just like that, just like that. By you all being luminous, by all you being loving, being happy, being harmonious, being joyful. Not only that, but you'll actually look in between the worlds, which means you can go to the Fey realms. You can go into the inner earth. You can look into all these different dimensional earths that have different levels of sentient intelligence. There really is no limit because they too are infinite in number. So the idea of the location of your planet, about how it appears, is infinite in number. The nature in regards to the type of beings that exist in all of those different dimensional Earths is infinite in number. The population amount within those particular dimensions too varies, infinite in number. So you're looking at a very, shall we say, broad universe, infinite in number, available to you just on your planet alone. That's how wondrous all this is. You can look inside yourself. You can look inside every single cell and every dimension of every other different cell that exists within those dimensions. There is infinity upon infinity upon infinity upon infinity that you can continue to explore. Do we have to get to know that infinity? Well, in a way you do, but it's not about having to explore every single particular form of parallel reality that exists, but it's being aware that the infinite exists. Because this is what linear reality is attempting to teach you. Because the human intellectual mind, again, is dumb and it doesn't understand infinity. And this is where your science is greatly flawed, because you don't look at infinites, you look at finites. You look at certain things that you can compact together in a little square, call that the Planck distance, and saying, well, that's how big the galaxy must be, or this is how big the universe may be, et cetera, et cetera. You try to limit the infinite. And that is, again, childish. And that, again, will not work. It is a flawed system. If you are not in the dimensions of working together scientifically with infinites, you'll never understand the universe. You'll never understand what exists in between the worlds. You'll never understand the nature of life. So this is where your science needs to incorporate consciousness. It needs to incorporate spirit. And when you do, you let spirit do the equations, because spirit designed everything. God designed everything. Rather than feeling that man has to figure it all out, because they can't anyways, you give it to God, you give it to spirit. You work with that greater consciousness, because that greater consciousness can interact with you, can talk to you just as easily as you talk to another person. It can work with you in all forms of ways. It can show you exactly how you work together with the infinite, but does not come through the idea of drawings on a whiteboard. And again, many civilizations that have been contacting you in your governments in the past several decades have told you how inefficient your scientific models are, because you're not going to expect yourself to be a galactic civilization and understand that your modern scientific approach is going to be good enough to becoming a galactic civilization. You won't even get out the front door with those obscene aspects of scientific dribble. So we're basically saying throw the whiteboard away. Come into the quantum levels. Come into the aspect of the infinite. And when you start working with spirit, when you start looking at spirit science, when you start looking at quantum science, when you start looking at consciousness science, which is what you're starting to do now and have been doing for a little bit of time, then you're getting somewhere. Now you're starting to understand everything. But the idea of your modern science is flawed, and it will not get you out the front door in becoming a galactic civilization. It's archaic, it's primitive, it's flawed, and it's wrong. So this again is the idea of linear-based thinking. Linear-based thinking is a confinement because you feel space and time have a hold over you, rather than looking at the idea that space and time can serve you instead. So the aspect pertaining to, as you term, a continuum. Now, again, it actually works a little bit more than the aspect of a continuum. It's a field. It's not actually a continuum relating to space and time. You can refer to it in that way for lack of a better term, but it's a field. It's a field that can be bypassed, where the idea as a continuum has a different orientation to it altogether. But space and time are fields. They're magnetics in that way. And so when you are able to align and become familiar with the magnetics of space and time, it works for you, not the other way around. And when you are able to work with the space and time fields of dimensions, you are now able to part them, as it were, and see the truth within. And again, this is where you may see the true energy, the true geometry, the true nature of reality, where the, as it were, walls of space and time part. You are seeing what actually works behind space and time, because space and time themselves are effects. They're not absolutes. So they are a result of different energetic patterns. They are a result of different oscillating vibrations. That's all space and time is. Different oscillating vibrations of frequencies. That again has been imposed in regards to a particular form of subject matter, such as the idea of your Earth. All right. So space and time exist here on this planet in a certain configuration, in the way that the Earth orients herself, working together with toroidal fields, working with magnetic fields, electromagnetic energy, radiation, etc. These are, again, all the background elements that make space and time an effect, not in that sense a property higher above yourselves. It's a vibration. It's oscillating frequency on different variants. And that you can, should you wish to, work with space and time. You basically look at space and time no more different than you would look at amoeba in a petri dish and observe exactly how it works. And so therefore you can work together with the nature of space and time, where space will bend for you, where time will bend for you. Now, guess what? Your ancient masters, going back many thousands of years, have been able to do this naturally, because they have seen space and time work for them, not the other way around. If you are a slave to space and time, you will be confined linearly to them, because space and time does have its own intelligence. Because again, it is the background properties that relate to consciousness to which those particular space and time fields connect and correlate and shroud the aspect of your honeycomb world called the Earth. So you, through consciousness, by seeing everything serving you, where you are sovereign above everything else, you're able to talk to space and time like servants. And they bow their knee to you and saying, yes, master, I'll be happy to bend the space and time field for you so you can go into a different dimensional reality that from your impression would be about 1,000 years ago. Now, it's not actually happening 1,000 years ago, but it will create that impression as you look at the interface relating to that reality. Here's the thing. Many of these dimensions don't really have age. They are simply a property. You create the idea of age pertaining to linear space-time progression of how civilizations have come and gone, of technological achievements going back thousands of years, etc. And you look at things chronologically. Dimensions don't, which means the idea of you living 50,000 years ago, where there are prehistoric animals there, you can open up a gateway to see that happening right now. You may say, oh my goodness, this must have happened 50,000, 100,000, or 250,000 years ago in regards to our chronology. Nope. It's happening right here, happening right now. Existing, coplanar, together with you, right here, right now. Oh, but Adronis, we have proof that there were ancient civilizations. Oh, do you? Well, if you look at the ancient pyramid of Giza, you're looking at that right now. You're looking at everything right now. There is no time restraint in regards to the state of dimension. That's an illusion. So when you start to go into these different realities, you will see that they coexist with you in this moment. If they didn't, you wouldn't be able to access them. Everything is a now web. So by going into this now web, you see all of these things that you feel are prehistoric or ancient in that particular way. But again, they only exist that way in regards to the buying in of the chronology. because humanity will look upon their planet and saying, oh, well, here's an ancient site. Here's something that's been ravaged by time. You've given time power to do that, which means you have the ability to have something like the Great Pyramid of Giza in its own prime condition to when it was first developed to maintain itself like that. But because humanity has bought into the idea of being slaves to linear space and time, it becomes a result of a passage of time because you're letting time run the show, you see? But everything that you're experiencing is right now. You're seeing that version of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and then this version of the Great Pyramid of Giza, and then this version of the Great Pyramid of Giza. All of these portals can open up and you can see it in its pristine condition. But the only reason why it's not is because you have agreed for time to run the show. You have agreed for space to run the show. And so therefore it will create the illusion like something has been ravaged, like something has been eaten away by time. And so it does. But again, as we stated, when you are mastering space and time, you open up a portal and there's the Great Pyramid of Egypt pristine. And you can go through that dimension and you can put your hands right on it and see it. Oh my goodness, the Great Pyramid of Giza is pristine. It's like polished limestone. It's like looking into a mirror. It's so beautiful. Look at that beautiful golden capstone that it has. And you can see it in that pristine way. You can touch it because it's existing right now. So in this reality, you've given the impression that the Great Pyramid of Giza has been ravaged by time. That has, in that sense, a great deal of erosion upon it. Erosion is a side effect of allowing time to run the show. It's the idea of a side effect of allowing space to run the show. You've allowed space and time to run the show and saying, oh yeah, space and time take care of it. We have no power over this. And so you'll go ahead and see that happen because that's how space and time by itself on a linear level will act. But what we are saying is that you have the ability to change that. You have the ability to fold space and time, to go into these different dimensions where they're existing right here, right now in pristine condition. This is why we say you do not have history. You have histories. You have many different realities that you are familiar with in this plane, and you can look at them in other different dimensional planes to understand a different course of history. But again, it's not even history itself. It's still now. It's still happening right here. So in this dimension, you have an eroded pyramid of Giza. In other dimensions, it is still pristine. It is still just like it is freshly built. And it's allotted just around here, like in that kaleidoscope vision that we've talked about. So this is what we're seeing. In this reality, you have a conjecture relating to that. But as other realities simultaneously coexist with you because they function as a particular scale pertaining to luminosity and shadowy essence, they can therefore be tipped because of the collective consciousness consensus of where you are going as a species, which means, yes, you have the ability to look at other versions of the Great Pyramid of Giza, at Stonehenge, of Machu Picchu, etc. And you can see them in their pristine form. The generations, as you would term in your future, will be able to do this. They will know how to bend space and time. They will walk through portals and they will go to different Earths and actually being able to see all of these things, like we've mentioned, in pristine condition. And they can choose to actually be involved in that particular reality where any changes that take place through their own actions within that reality only stay in that reality. It does not come back into the idea of what you term as concurrency, because we have talked about this before with the idea of dimensional lines. If you have your alpha timeline right here to where you exist, you will not be able to go back to that timeline because you have instigated change. So you will find a dimensional line very similar to that degree, but it won't be the same because you've gone through your own experiences. You've gone through change. You've gone to different worlds. And you may say, oh, I want to go back to the world where I'm on 123 2nd Street in an apartment building. All right, you're there. And things may look very, very similar, but something has changed. You have, which means you'll never be able to go back into that alpha timeline again. There will be an alpha 2, an alpha 3, an alpha 4, an alpha 5. So again, things that may look very, very similar, but you will never experience that dimension again. Why? Because time is like a river. Space is like a river. Everything is fluidic. Can you stand in the exact same spot as the river? No, you can't. It's always flowing. It's always moving. Well, the same thing goes with space and time. It's always flowing. It's always moving. And so you're going to move into these different dimensions based upon the changes that you've made. The only way that you would ever be able to stay within your indigenous timeline is if you are in stasis, is when you're in suspended animation. You have absolutely no form of dynamic within yourself whatsoever. You become a static frame. And that's you simply staying within the position of static time and space. But that's not how you work. You work with dynamic time and space, space and time. And so you will see these folds taking place. As we've stated, your ancient masters going back many thousands of years already know how to do this. And many masters in, as you term, your east of your planet know how to do this naturally too. They are actually already aware of what you would term as the entire history of your planet. They can access all of that because the aspect of history through the degree of time is a living thing. This is exactly what your Jesus told many of you, is that to get past the dead stone of laws and to come into the living law, which is the natural law, which is God's laws. Those are the laws that matter. The laws that you create through humanity don't mean anything in the grander picture of things. Whatever laws, whatever stipulations, whatever conditions, whatever governmental rules you have aren't important. They don't matter because they're created by man's intellect. And man's intellect has no power whatsoever. It is the true laws that matter. It's the idea that you are one, that you are all. It is the idea that now is forever, forever is now. These are examples of true laws, of true ways, the nature of your soul, the nature of how the universe functions, coherency, causality, free will, karma, etc. These are true laws. They're what matter. And you can even transcend them as well too. When you get into a higher level of yourself, when you move into God's self, you transcend all of them. They're bent for you. So what we are saying here is that any of you trying to practice man-made laws will not hold up. It will die, just like your other civilizations have died. They had laws, they had rules, they had rulings in that way. Look what happened to them. If you do not live the natural way of life, if you do not live in accordance to the natural laws, you will diminish. Your empires will fall. Your corporations will fall. Your kingdoms will fall. Everything will fall if it does not abide by the natural way, by the natural law. And you're seeing this right now in front of your eyes. Many of these empires falling, these corporations falling, trying to hide behind lies and trying to conceal. You're in the year of exposure. You can't conceal anything. It's going to come to the light. It's all going to be exposed because they are unnatural laws. They are laws created by men, and those laws will die. And those systems will die because they do not respect the natural law. When you work together in harmony, when you work together in community, love and compassion and happiness and joy and willing to serve, you're working with the natural law, which means that will reign supreme for as long as you want it to. The ways of the universe will never touch that. It's in harmony with the natural way. with the natural laws. It's untouchable. You can live eternally by being in respect and appreciation of the natural laws. When you try to go against the grain, your laws that you create through those resistance of the grain will perish. Guaranteed. It may last for a certain amount of time and then it will die. Just like every other empire before your modern world came before you died because they tried to go the opposite direction to the natural way. You cannot defy the natural way. You cannot go against the grain. It will be a failure. It will fall apart. It will turn to dust. And this is what many of us have attempted to teach many of you, is that when you start to walk the natural way and you let go of all of these unnatural things that are happening in your world because you're so worried about everything, but you finally let them go, you can live forever. You become eternal. It's exactly what Brad has shared with you, with the idea of an eternal youth body. Well, Adronis, is that true that if we actually focus on our youth, that we can actually stay young? Of course you can, for as long as you want, because you are taking away all of the mortal turmoil that says you're going to grow old and die someday. That's a disease. That is diseased thought. That is a diseased virus existing within the mind that you have given your power to. And it's the same thing with anything else that has a mortal stipulation to it that goes against natural law. These other worlds exist and they can be accessed for those of you that move past your own mortality state of resistance. By those of you empowering mortality, you are empowering going against the flow. You're empowering resistance into what God wants to give you. God wants to give you eternal life. You don't have to die. You've never had to die. Humanity was never designed to die. Humanity created that instance based on polarization, feeling that you could be mightier than other people, be gods among men, but now you have to assert this and assert that, and you have to get into this throne, and you have to rule supreme upon all other men and women and children. And that way you'll be supreme. No, because you'll live a very, very short time because you're going against the natural law. Anything that goes against the natural law is doomed to fail, will shatter. They will turn to dust. And that's why you die. Because there are still elements within yourselves that go against the grain, that resist. I got to make a living and I got to do this, or I'm going to grow old and I'm going to be feeble and I'm going to be reigning with diseases. I'm going to be ill. I'm going to be sick. If I don't do this, oh, I can't touch that because I'll be sick. I'll die. Look what you're putting into yourself. Those are spells. And those spells are what's putting in these viruses on a mental level. And your physical body won't fight it. Your physical body is a sponge. It's going to take on whatever you deem appropriate for it to be taken on. If you see yourself susceptible to COVID-19, then that's exactly what your body is going to implant within yourself because you're scared to death of it. The same goes with cancer. The same goes with diabetes. The same thing goes with old age. The same thing goes with heredity. Heredity is an illusion. Oh, well, Adronis, I look like my parents. Well, the reason why you do is because you have a rapport with them. If you have absolutely no rapport with your parents whatsoever, and you decide to occupy your body to where God is your true parent, you'll look completely different. You won't even look like them because God is now your parent. And now you start to work together with luminous natural teachings. And now your bones change shape. Your hands change shape. Your skull change shape. Your eyes, your nose, your mouth, everything changes shape because it's the idea of the law of rapport. There is no heredity law. That's man-made. There is a rapport law, the law of rapport, that which you have relationship. As an infant, you absorb everything like a sponge. You take in everything. You instantly accept everything. And that's what continues to grow and grow and grow, because you have no doubt that you'll look like your parents. That's what you've been bred into believing. Adronis, are you saying we don't have to look like them at all? It's exactly what we're saying. You can change all of that. You can go from having brown eyes to having blue eyes. If that is your intention, if that is what you want to bring forward with you, you can do that. You can change your skin color. That can be done as well too. But again, you are buying into these mortal instruments of laws that you have been told by the intellectual consensus of humanity, which are all a bunch of stimulations of falsities. They're unnatural laws. They're man-made. We're giving you a lot to think about, we know, but nonetheless, it's the truth. Why do you think great masters who have transcended this plane are able to appear in bodies that appear much different to what they had when they were alive? Because they were able to realize they didn't have to have this exact complexion. They realized that the law of heredity is false. It's something you buy into. It's exactly as Brad told you as well too, that the aspect of karmic debt is a lie, and that you only buy into it. The idea of sin, the idea of karmic debt, it's your own self-imposed natures. If you buy into it, then it'll be your truth, but it's not really your truth. It's just something you've bought into. You've bought into the lies of everything relating to what man has told you on this planet. And we could say about 95% of it is false, is diluted thinking, is misinformation. When you start to live the path of spirit, not only are you able to go in between the worlds, not only are you able to go into different dimensions, not only are you able to go to different planes of worlds, but you can change the very fabric of how your body operates. Do you know that you could open up a portal and start walking on interstellar space like it's a sidewalk and never be concerned about how to breathe? You'll actually be able to supply your body with all the necessary oxygen because you'll convert everything around you to sustain yourself while you're walking in this bubble, walking out in space. You can do that with the physical body. You can do that. The physical body is not a mortal instrument. That is the greatest lie you have ever been told. It is an eternal instrument, which means you can reverse your age, which means you can change your complexion, which means you can walk in outer space and receive everything that you need to do so, because spirit is the natural way. God is the natural way. And you completely dedicate yourself to God, to spirit, to creator, to you being a living God. Why do you think we have told you for years, you're gods in training? You're gods in training. You are untraining yourself out of the mortal mind, out of the mortal body. You have the ability to keep this body, if you wish, it's up to you, and change it entirely so that it looks nothing like the hereditary response, the hereditary effect, because that's an illusion. That you are bogged down by karmic law, that's an illusion in regards to karmic debt. Debt is self-imposed. Just like you have debt with your fiat currency. It's an illusion. You have sin. That's an illusion. It's self-imposed. So everything that you self-impose yourself, you believe to be true, but it isn't. It's a veil, and it's a sequences of veils that you have put around yourself and saying, yes, I have a mortal body. I may only live until I'm 50 years old. Well, that's exactly what you've put your energy into. You have no other result of any particular form of belief that would contradict that. And so something like that would come together because you have bought into it Hook, line, and sinker. Your collective has bought into it. Hook, line, and sinker. But we are telling you, when you go into different dimensions, you'll look at other races, other human beings, and you may talk to one of them and saying, how long have you been alive for? 150,000 years. 150,000 years? You look like you're 19 years old. Well, that's our choice to do that. We can fly in the air. We can levitate. We can go to any space we wish. It's all up to us. We've set ourselves free because we live in harmony with the natural way, with the natural law. We live with God's laws. We would never, ever think, ever, of creating a sovereignty of man-made laws that would go over God, because that's stupidness. And they would say that to your face. You lived with man-made laws over God's laws? No offense, man, but that's really stupid. And now you look at yourself and saying, oh my goodness, you're right. What we've been doing has been very stupid. We've been living with man-made laws that tell you you're mortal, that tell you, oh, you got to reincarnate again and again and again. No, you don't. You go and you do whatever you want. The aspect of incarnation is a choice. Yes, whatever you're contracted to, you can experience. That's part of your contract. But the contract can be whatever you want as well, too. It's for those of you who do not realize that there is a light in the center where you just keep orbiting around and around and around again. I need to go back to Earth. I need to have more of a family. I need to make more money. I need to do this. I need to do that. So you pop in, you go to different dimensional Earths, and you incarnate in all those different dimensional Earths because you choose to. Your choice. Oh, I'm a mortal person. I'm only going to live a few years, etc. And I'm so afraid of all these diseases and illnesses. And I'm absolutely so afraid of what the mainstream media tells me. And I'm going to live in fear. And this is going to be horrifying to me. Very well. You've made it happen because you chose to. Do you see this now? You are the one that is targeting for your own self-destruction. You're making yourself sick. You're making yourselves worry. You're making yourselves afraid. You're making yourselves mortal. Do you want to know the nature of how long we have been around for, if you were to look at it chronologically? Over 127,000 years and counting, if we were to put it in your chronology. Now, have we ever worried about getting cancer? Not one bit. Have we ever worried about our own mortality? Not one bit. Because we work with God's laws. We work with the natural way. We have never ever been bogged down, as you say, based on fear, based on traumas. We don't experience them because we see ourselves as everything else. We are all God's children. But humanity has an advantage because you're the only race that can create like how God can create. Other races can't do that. We can't even do that, although part of us is human. And that's a conversation for another time. Part of our genetics that exists within ourselves is part human. So we have that to a certain degree, but not to the strength that you do. Not to the potential that you do. You have an enormous color palette here with all these forms of colors, whereas many races have a much more smaller palette to work with. They can create to a certain extent, but they could never imagine about how you are pulling things out of thin air the way that you do. We've talked about this before, that you amaze so many different civilizations that are observing you. They cannot believe that you're able to do the things that you do. It, as you would say, blows them away. We can't believe that humanity does this. Why are they putting themselves in a rut? Don't they know how powerful they are? Don't they know that through a snap of a finger, all this man-made nonsense would end if they all came together and realized that? They don't. because they're under a veil of man-made illusion, where man feels like it reigns over God. They live the inverted pentagram, where it must be the material way. That's the way that is going to die. It is about the idea of living God's way, living the natural way. And when you do this, not only are you going to go in between the worlds, you will become a literal God being. And you will be able to shape your world in any way you wish. Very much to how Jesus said, you can tell this mountain to plummet itself into the sea, and it will be done just by your faith alone. That's the whole idea. Get the mortality virus out of yourself entirely. Get it out of your body. Get it out of your mind. Get it out of your emotions, and you'll be free. This is not just the idea of going between the worlds. It's the idea of going within yourself. And when you see what you actually are, you'll never go that mortal route again. So explore the worlds, explore space and time, explore all of these other realities as you wish. But what is the most important thing is for you to cleanse yourself and to be part of the natural way. Work with the natural laws. Work with God's laws, because those are the laws that truly matter. All right? We thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction. We will now call in Zach. Zach, hello.
Hi there, Adronis.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How is the
We will
Adronis?
be happy to now answer any questions that you may have. So please feel free to conduct the question and answer period with, again, a 3-question maximum with anyone who would like to go firstly.
Okay, so audio question from Anita Zager. Go ahead, Anita. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I was wondering if Trump does not win the election, is it a real problem for the world? Is it something that we have to live with for, I understand, 9 months or something like that?
That's not a reality that you'll be facing, so it's really not a point in having to elaborate on that.
Wonderful.
Now, we're not saying in that sense giving anything away. As we've stated, that where you're going as a civilization is upwards, not downwards. You're done with the down. You're moving with the up. All right?
Good. Yes,
Maintain that frequency. Don't focus on what doesn't serve, because that's just bringing you back into a chasm that you know you don't want to get involved with. Yes?
Exactly.
Focus on what
That's
serves.
wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not for me, thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Text question from Margaret Marino. How do I deal with exhaustion?
Well, you're only exhausted because you're telling yourself to be exhausted. It's very much like we talked about. The idea of exhaustion is because you have a great deal of toxicities within the body. You have metal toxicities, you have other particular forms of viral or bacterial toxicities within the body, and it clogs up, as you would say, the gears within the body that represent the organs and bodily systems. So what you want to do is you want to detoxify yourself. You want to clean yourself out. So you want to work together with, like Brad has shared, a BCR technique that he has developed, the healing code cards to which he has developed, eating properly, eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, and getting a lot of that gunk that's causing a lot of problems with the internal gears of your body that are, in that sense, clogging up the works to be cleared. Clean your liver, clean your kidneys, clean your gallbladder, clean your heart, clean your lungs, clean your bodily systems. Get all the metals out of your body. You want to detoxify the metals. So there are various ways about going about that. You have a person known as the medical medium on your planet that refers to the idea of a heavy metal detox smoothie. And you can find this recipe on your internet. Go ahead and get all the ingredients and start working with that for several months. Your body will start to feel better. Exhaustion is a result of physical, mental, emotional toxicity. Clear it out, and you won't be exhausted anymore. You'll be as vibrant as the youth body, as Brad shares. All right? Thank you. Questions?
Audio question from Val Legson. Go ahead, Val, please unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, Val.
How are you?
We are wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. Perfect.
All right.
I got 3 questions here. What's the difference between the spirit and the soul?
Spirit is, as you would say, permanence. The soul is not.
And what's the spirit?
Spirit is permanent. You really cannot define that intellectually. It is essence.
And consciousness? What is consciousness?
Well, consciousness, again, is that which makes up all that you would understand to exist.
And the
Right.
final question?
Those were 3 questions.
All right. All right.
We thank you, Val.
Thank you.
Questions?
Text question from Olga Patti. I was told that there are 95% of phantoms and 5% of real souls in the USA. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. Now, text question from Esperanza Krieger. Hello, last week I stepped outside and looked up to see what looked like a bright white piece of paper moving erratically in the clouds. Then I saw what looked like tiny, energetic white strings, short strings, flowing down like snow all around the sky, floating down to Earth. I was mesmerized. What was that?
Well, these again can be what you would term as extra-dimensional phenomena. Different forms of ripples of reality that, again, as we've stated, veils that are thinning, opening themselves up to participate with such phenomena. Now, the phenomena is, of course, not what you think it is, but it's the idea, as you would say, is the folding in between different dimensions that can occur. Sometimes this can happen transdimensionally through technology. Sometimes natural occurrence is based upon natural dimensional folds. So you are witnessing that phenomena. All right.
Okay. Audio question from Robin Ringgold. Please go ahead, Robin, and unmute yourself.
Okay, great. Yes. Brett, Adronis, I see
Hello,
a lot
Robin.
of these worlds. Hi. I see a lot of these worlds that you're talking about in my shamanic journey.
Yes.
However, I don't normally interact with the beings that I see there. How can I interact with the beings?
You can if you wish, with the intention of doing so.
Okay. And then
You basically say that as you see this world, I would like to speak to the individual that I see there. And you step through like a looking glass. And now that being becomes aware of you. Now, you can't force people into conversations. It's a co-creation. But if therefore you have the intention to do so, if they choose to respond to you in that way, that's their choosing as well. Yes?
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. And then how do I improve the just normal channeling that I do? So that I can
surrender yourself to be as clear as possible. As we stated, the more that you are removing all of the mortal gunk out of yourself, and you are now working with the natural laws of God, you are being an instrument for God. God himself will speak right through you. That's all it takes. It's the idea of complete and total surrender, openness, and dedication to working with the Most High.
Okay. And then have we actually lived on the Great Central Sun before? I feel
Depends
there's a
on what you
different
mean by a great central sun, because there are various types.
Okay. I just feel an affinity for the sun.
Are you referring to the central sun existing within your galaxy?
I'm thinking of the Great Central Sun that I affiliate with Alcyon.
On regards to the idea of the universe?
Yes.
All right. Alcyon itself is a star, not a central sun.
Okay.
It's a portal gateway in that sense that can lead there. Again, any star really can, but that's one particular gateway that's preferred because it's vibrational means of the idea, as you would say, it's lightness to work together in that way. It's cooperation. You have to understand that stars are also not what you think they are. You realize they're not balls of fire, right?
Yes.
You realize that they do not even have their own heat nor their own light. Yes?
Yes.
All right. That they are living wells. They are wells of consciousness. They are basically singularity. So there are singularities that work much more in cooperation together with certain means in regards to established intent, and some may not. It all depends in regards to the beingness of the star together with the co-creator that wishes to work with it.
Okay, thank you.
Questions?
Next question from Olga Patti. Is that correct? Is it correct that the situation in the USA will be so bad in the next 4 years that it will create massive immigration from the USA to Europe?
Well, you're living out what has been suppressed for a very long time. Now, again, as we stated, it's all self-imposed aspects of karma. Here's the thing, you do not have to be involved with it. You are choosing to be involved with it. Yes, the US is going to be unfolding a lot of corruption within itself. It is basically a spewing time. As we stated, it's a year of exposure. You're going to be experiencing a great deal of very unsettling secrets that are attempting to be brought open to the surface. If it's being ignored, it's going to be greater. And if it's continuing to be ignored, it's going to be even greater. And if it continues to be ignored, it's going to be even greater until it is spewed all over your country. And that's what's happening right now. So it's a moniker of many different things that are happening that has been, again, kept under your feet. All of this has to spew. It's Pandora's box opening up. You can't close it again once it's opened. Right now, it's open. All right. So as we stated, you don't have to be involved with this. You work with your own life. You decide what is best. But you have to understand that your country is an entity. It is an entity of itself. The land itself to which it occupies is conscious. And everything that's been happening upon this land through all of your thoughts, through all of your emotional states, is being spewed out. You can't avoid that. That needs to happen. So, as we stated, you don't have to get personally swept on it. Take care of your own affairs. Work with yourself. Go where you feel you want to go. Do what you feel you want to do. Be in peace with the natural way. That's the idea. All right.
Excellent, thank you. Audio question from JP Power. Please go ahead, JP, and unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes, JP, hello.
Hey, Adronis. Today I started a 7-day third eye awakening exercise where you listen to the binaural beats on the YouTube channel Spiritual
Sounds
Zen.
very exciting. Yes.
Yeah, and you listen to this binaural beat 7 times a day. And just after listening to it twice, I went on my walk and I noticed this tree I swore wasn't there before.
Yes.
I went to the convenience store and I started noticing flavors of chips I've never noticed, and I go to that convenience store 3 times a day.
So you see how you've shifted realities, yes?
Oh, that was what I was
Just
going to
like
ask
what
you.
we talked
What,
about, you have an alpha timeline, and now you're moving into one of the sub-alpha timelines.
no way.
You're seeing a different tree that wasn't there before. You're seeing different flavors of potato chips in this store that you have not seen before. A different alpha timeline, an alpha 2.
Okay, cool.
If you
my
wish.
next question.
It can be awesome too.
My next question is about music. Now, with my higher self slash teacher slash best friend slash mirror, him and I, our curriculum has always been music. You know, we do a bit of meditation, a bit of healthy eating, exercise here and there, but it's been 75% music, and we listen to electronic music, and it's a conscious awakening thing, the electronic music. What is it?
Yes.
What is it doing, and why are we so drawn to the music?
Well, you have to understand that music is a part of yourself. It's very much a part of yourself. This is why, much in regards to your culture, favors music so much, because you witness how it transforms you. Sound is indeed the property that's responsible for shaping all of reality. So when you're working together with music in that way, you're actually opening up different gateways within yourself to realize how you're shaping yourself differently. So it's the idea of floodgates opening up because you move to the music, you give it power. And therefore, through that natural occurrence of you being receptive to that music, it can now go in and it can activate certain areas. It may deactivate certain areas based upon the type of music, but nonetheless, it brings about certain states of change within yourself. And you start moving to the beat, you know this naturally starts to feel good because, again, new centers within yourselves are opening up all the time when you allow such music in this way to benefit you. Very similar to the binaural beats.
Awesome. And then last question is about money and worrying about money. I had a financial decision coming up a week ago.
Money is a mortal thing.
Yeah. So how do I stop worrying about money?
Well, it's the opposite. What is the opposite? Not to worry about money. What do you do?
Trust myself.
Yes, that everything will come your way when you start working with the natural law. when you start working with spirit, because spirit will give you everything you want when you start working together with it. You want money, all of a sudden, here's all this money that comes right to you and you didn't expect it, but it can come in other forms besides money. What do I want money for? Oh, I want to get some groceries. All of a sudden you meet a person who gives you a whole bunch of groceries. I want to go travel. All of a sudden you have this person pulling up a car and say, hey, I got an extra ticket, let's go. And now you get in the car and you do that. Didn't cost you a penny. Those groceries didn't cost you a penny. You see, when you worry about money, you limit yourself in the mortal dilemma because you feel that money has to be your God. It has to be what makes the world go round. Guess what? It doesn't. It's getting past that illusion because that's the belief that you have imposed upon yourself to say, oh, I need money. So again, many have talked to you about this, the idea of letting go of money and just living life in the way that you naturally will through the natural law, through working with God, working with spirit, and everything comes to you because you are not in one iota concerned about money whatsoever. It's a prop. It's something man-made. It is not of natural law.
Of course. Okay. Amazing. Looking forward to doing all that. Thank you.
All right. Questions?
Text question from Barbara Gorkas. With all the changes happening on our planet, what can we expect later in the fall as we get close to the United States election? Will the information on the lies, corruption, deception, etc. have been released to all? Will we have experienced that reset?
This is already happening right now. It's already out right now. Those of you who are looking for all these exposures, it's available to you. But as we stated, is that when the majority is bearing this under their feet, there's going to be events that will happen that will spew it out again. It's like a spewing volcano in regards to self-imposed karma on a collective level that's coming out because you've believed in it, because you've imposed it upon yourselves and upon your land. So it's going to be like a volcano that keeps spewing out. No, you're not out of the forest yet, as it were, pertaining to this. There's a lot of, shall we say, dirty secrets that are still to come. And again, this is all part of a collective. Now, you do not have to be a part of it if you do not want to. Work on your own life. You have to understand that this is the mortal world. The mortal world is flawed. It has all kinds of very, very deep, shadowy aspects to it that have to come out. You cannot keep it buried under a trash can and thinking that you're going to try and hold it all in. You're not. It's going to explode. That's the mortal world. The mortal world is going to die. Yes, but you do not have to. You move past the mortal world. You get out of the politics. You get out of the corruptions. You get out of the necessity for money. You get out of the fear of diseases. You get out of the reliance of feeling that you have to be taken care of by others. You get out of the blame game. You get out of judgment. You get out of all those things. Guess what? You're not part of the mortal world anymore. The mortal world is going to go through chaos. Now, many of you feel, oh, Adronis, that's not going to happen. Yes, it is. Your United States right now is in complete and total chaos. Will it continue? Yes, it will, because it needs to spew all of this out. You do not have to be a part of that. You get out of all those things that are heavily embedded within your system and you walk the natural path, which means you are being provided for. You are being taken care of. When you give no power to the mortal world, it can't touch you. So, as you get out of the mortal world and realize it can't touch you because you have transcended beyond all of that. You are taken care of. You are provided for because you walk the natural direction. You walk the natural way. You live by God's laws. You work with people. You cooperate. You give good tidings. You're compassionate. You're loving. You're happy. You're joyful. You're youthful. You feel great. You're not affected by the turmoil toilet bowl that is called the mortal world, because that will always be in chaos. Always. Because it's unnatural. It's like you diving into a landfill when there's a big crane that's taking all this garbage and putting it into another canister. Oh, will I still be affected by all this garbage that's going into the canister? Yes, because there's this big crane arm that's taking it all up and putting it into a canister. It's burning it all away. When you live in the landfill, you're going to experience that, dear humans, gentlemen, women, children, all of you. If you continue to live in the mortal landfill, you will be caught by the crane arm. You will be caught by that gigantic claw that will pick up all the garbage, put it into a canister for it to be burned away, because that's what's happening. So it's your choice right now. You either get out of the mortal world and start working with the natural way, because that's what feels good, that's what feels wonderful, it's natural to you, or you continue to get obsessed over this old system that you are now witnessing dying. It's dying. It's not still in good health. It's on life support. It's on a respirator. All right? That is not going to bring you salvation in any shape, way, or form. It's dying. So if you're worried about your politics and your government and your money and all of these things, guess what? You're part of the mortal world. You're in the landfill, and you're going to get caught by that claw, and you're going to be put into a canister, and it's going to burn you up, because that's what's going to happen when people walk the unnatural way. It's what happened through all of these ancient civilizations thousands of years ago. Walking the unnatural path will put you in a landfill, and you will be burned up, because that's what we'll do with you. It's self-implosive. It's self-destructive. If you go the route of self-destruction, you will self-destruct, guaranteed. But if you change your ways and you start working together in favor to the natural laws, to God's laws, you start taking care of yourself, you start helping each other, you start working with others, you bring love and compassion and joy and happiness and forgiveness into everything that you do, you won't be touched by that claw in the landfill. You won't even be anywhere near the landfill. You'll be in the beautiful Sunshine Valley that has the light of God shining down upon it. So many of you are still trying to save the mortal world. Here's a secret for all of you. You can't. You can't. You let it go. You let it die. That's what's happening. That is what will continue to happen for years to come. Get out of the mortal world. Get out of the man-controlled world. All you're doing is walking through it. You are not a part of it in any shape, way, or form. Is this making sense to you? Thank you. Questions?
Audio question from Jen Jin. Please go ahead, Jen, and unmute yourself.
Hello. One question regarding that mortal world
Yes.
you've mentioned. Is it the honeycomb compartment surrounded by Antarctica, which is more or less the model of the flat Earth? Is it the connection?
There is no flat Earth. That again is something that you have bought into. You are creating a particular type of science that is therefore inconclusive to the idea of what you term a flat Earth. Your plane is not flat. Now, again, you will have to see this for yourselves for you to truly understand that. From our perspective, you have never been on a flat earth. There is no such thing in this dimension.
Okay, thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Second question would be, all these belief systems we are taking part in this mortal world you've mentioned, was it the collective consciousness of the mankind, or was it an evil entity, the Archon, Satan, you name it, who frauded the science, the history, and yeah, biased our belief systems?
Jim is your name, right?
Yes.
Yes. Now, Jim, both are applicable, but here's the thing. All of those archons that you talk about, devils, etc., that you talk about, could not touch this world unless humans gave them permission to do so. That's what's happened. The corruption began within humanity. It was not brought to you in any other means. It was you making the decisions to say, we will be gods among men. We will forge our own empires. We will have our time in the sun while everybody else feeds off the crusts of bread. That has been a human decision. Mankind is responsible for suffering, not the reptilians, not the archons, not a devil, not God, humans, which means you are the very ones, you are the very instigators of what has brought suffering upon this planet. It's been humanity. So when humanity opens up that veil pertaining to suffering, then a lot of these other forms of influences can come in because they corroborate to suffering. If this world is pristine to the point where it is absolutely pure love, those forces can't go anywhere near it because there is no open holes, gaping fields within the aspect of its own aura to where they can come. Those beings have been called here like a moth to a flame, like a fly that smells a dead body. That's what's happened. So humanity opened the gateway for suffering to be born. These other particular forms of intrusions come in and add to the injury, just like what you would term as entity attachments. Attachments upon the body by themselves cannot happen. There has to be open, vulnerable holes, gaping areas within the body for that to take place. It's the same thing with your planet. No, it's not the reptilians' fault. It's what they're doing that's very natural. It's not the Archon's fault. It's what they're doing that's very natural. It's very shadowy, but nonetheless, humans opened the door to their own suffering. And these are the influences that came in, like a fly smelling a carcass. All right?
Thank
so
you.
it's your job to get yourselves out of it because you're the ones that created suffering. Many of you put so much blame on God. God's never created suffering. Humanity created it. Humanity created everything that is unnatural because there is nothing that God has ever created that is unnatural. God only knows the natural way. So don't put this on God. It's yours, your responsibility to clean up. It's your mess. It's your landfill. Who put the landfills on your planet? Was it God? No, it wasn't. It was yourselves. So, do you expect somebody else to come in and clean up your mess? No. Your landfills, your emotions, your thoughts, your intentions, your responsibility. Please look into that a lot more deeper. Humanity created suffering. It was not God, and it was no other shadowy forces. Shadowy forces are only there as an amplifier to what is here, like a fly to a carcass. All right? We thank you. Questions?
Okay, text question from myself. If you had a phrase that you designed to plant a seed in someone to inspire them to wake up, what would it be?
Zach, is this your question?
Yep.
Stop thinking about phrases. You are looking at a variable in the idea to where, can you define a soul, Zach?
No.
Can you define a soul?
No.
Well, there you go. How do you expect a phrase to happen when you don't even know what the soul is?
True. It's
You
more
don't
about the
even really know
feeling.
what the mind is either. You don't even know what the body is either. You have to understand that these are all different levels of manifestations that include infinite formulas of dynamics. And you think one phrase is going to do it? No. When you start to move into the nature of the God self, the word becomes life. And that's what we can share. The word of what you speak, the command that you give as a God, life therefore follows. Because that is what man has been designed to do. Life will bend its knee to man, awaiting man's God command. Man, woman, child. All right. When that happens, nature therefore responds instantly like clay to that. But you see, it's not about the precision of the word, but the word itself. So this is again what's important, is knowing the word itself, but not the precision of what that word or sequences of words have to be, because it is God that speaks it. Anytime that you try to use mortal words through the aspect of humanity, it is not going to get you anywhere, because in comparison, those words spoken by a man are idle compared to the infinite power spoken by a God. So when you start getting into God command, nature will abide by that. You will see, just as your Jesus demonstrated, lepers being healed, sight being given to the blind, because the power of God command is so much more powerful than anything mortal. So it is not about a phrase, Zach. It is about the command. It is about the word itself. It's the God command itself, regardless of its orientation of verbal precision. That's what we can share on that ideal. All right.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, I have a second question. I have read that the precession of the equinox into the age of Aquarius occurs at 2160 AD. Is this correct?
A certain version of it, yes. Depends upon the calendar you work with.
Sure.
But the
Okay.
idea in that sense of where you're moving to right now is the dawning of what you would know as the Aquarian age. It is
Excellent. Thank
happening
you.
in a certain sub-cycle, we will say, that will therefore move more into a grandiose cycle.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Text question from Darkis Valenzuela. A few months ago, I saw a thing outside. It must have been 3 or 4 a.m. I woke up and went to the window. I was not dreaming, I was awake. I was not dreaming, I was awake. This thing was shaped like a human, but was wobbling, completely white, very white, and it seemed it had a hard time to walk. It had no other visible physical features, just a shape. I talked to it, and I said, I can see you. It walked and wobbled for a few more seconds, and then shrank and disappeared. My question is, what was that? Thank you.
A being from another dimension, another dimensional being. Again, as we've stated, is that other fabrics of reality will interlace together at certain points. Now, this commonly happens at night. All right. So many in regards to the state of shifting happens at night because it's void. Where there is void, everything is much more universal for interlacing to happen. But it's the idea of another creature, another being from another reality that was able to be here for a certain amount of time, got noticed, and then left. So again, these particular forms of creatures have their own, shall we say, agendas, and they may in that sense have different levels of feeding pertaining to that idea. So in that sense, these creatures themselves occupy different realms of consciousness. Again, that may be here at the appropriate time to interlace their own physical body, or again, appearance of a body that exists in your reality only for a short amount of time to try to perform a certain task. However, when they are exposed, quite commonly they leave, because if they don't, they'll be kicked out and never to return. So this again is all part of an agenda. Other beings can be here on this planet as long as they are not detected. If they are detected by humanity, they must leave the space altogether. If they do not, intervention will grab them and take them right out of this dimension, and they will not be allowed to return. So that's much of the rule that they follow. This is what's known as the intervention law.
Excellent, thank you. Text question from David Viade.
We will take 3 more people for questions.
Okay. Regarding the collapse of the economic system, are we expecting that to happen within 2020, or when will it happen?
It's happening right now. Why do you think you have a COVID-19? Do you think that's just for a virus? Your stock market has plummeted. Your aspect of money is not worth the paper that it's printed on. That's what's happening right now. So you're witnessing it right now, and it will continue to play itself out in the years ahead, because what is the aspect of that money? A mortal thing. It's going to die. It's going to be replaced. That's why there is so much enforcement happening upon the planet that's, again, covered by a veil. This is all part of a pandemic that is relating to the idea of really having no more aspect pertaining to finances on a fiat level that is valuable. Your world is broke. And so a new system is coming together, and that's why this entire virus outbreak is happening worldwide. It's not just some local phenomenon. The entire world is under this cloak because the aspect of the financial system is being rebuilt. It is the idea of many of these old controllers trying to enforce to have their money together, but it can't happen. It's gone. And they said, well, if we can't have our own money, then we're going to pull off something like this. And that's exactly what they've done, because it is a hostage situation. We'll hold the world hostage if you allow us to have our money come back. Nope, forget it. And so this is exactly what's happening. Their money is not going to be good anymore. And new systems of financial aspects are going to come forward. Now, again, these are mortal aspects, and this is why we say, try not to get too flustered into those ideas, because it's not really for you to be concerned about. Value will always equate to something. It will come together in a certain form. It does not always have to come together through money. But what is happening right now is that the idea of your current monetary system no longer has any more credibility to it. It's basically, in that sense, as we stated, the entire world being held at gunpoint to say, let us have our money again or else. And again, you have many other different forms of agencies, organizations, governments, nations, in that sense, pulling the gun away from everybody's head and saying, no, that's not going to happen. Your money will die, which means after this entire agenda is finished, fiat currency will not be part of your world stage anymore. So it's in a transitional cycle for this to phase. And they're very desperate in that sense, and they want to try and rig elections, and they want to try and bring political power into the means so that they can maintain their monopoly. But that's not going to happen. It's past its course. But they are so incredibly stubborn thinking that it can, when they're being told, you're not allowed to do that anymore. Your time in the sun is done. Right now, you're witnessing a funeral of these old globalists. So it's happening. This entire COVID-19 is a globalist funeral. That's what's happening. So when they get out of the picture, you will not be experiencing fiat currency anymore. Period. Gone. Done. Finished. And new currencies will be coming together that will bring about, as you term, prosperity funding. Now, many of you are saying Nasera, Gesera in that way. Not exactly, but some things that are similar to that degree. Yes. But again, this will happen as you move further into your next decade. All right. Moving more close into the mid-year point, the mid-decade point, we'll say. All right.
Great, thank you. Text question from Jesse Duval. What types of free energy technologies will humanity be using before the year 2037?
Many of you will still rely very much on solar, tidal, and other particular forms of wind energy in that way. So basically what you would know as the common alternatives. But there will be new forms of technology that will work together with magnets or magnetic energy. Some will even function on 0 point. Whether that in that sense is being rolled out publicly is up to you. That technology is already available. But many of you will start working together with the alternative forms of energy that are much more cleaner And that will be, as you would say, much more of the routine, especially around that time. All right. One more person, one more question, or again, a set of questions depending on the person.
Sure. Audio question from Oscar Texeria. Please unmute yourself, Oscar.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Oscar.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. Yes, I had the question about there's a lot of talk of children being rescued that are being held captive by the elite.
Yes, this is true. This is correct.
And what areas or what parts of the world are most prevalent, or is this mostly happening?
Often areas that have a lot of isolation from human activity, quite commonly what you would know as abandoned sites or deserts, quite commonly, mountain areas. Other particular vaults in that sense, caverns, underground bunkers, quite commonly.
And what about cities, main cities?
They would be more so in plain sight, but that is not as frequent in regards to what we have just described.
Okay. Another question. You mentioned that the Earth isn't
Simply
flat.
because the idea of having many children together would need to be kept out of public sight, and the idea of having isolation from the public would be more variable in this way.
Okay. All right. I have another question. You mentioned how the Earth isn't flat some time ago.
It is a honeycomb planet. That is the geometry. Are you familiar with a soccer ball?
Yes.
That's how it's shaped. Very much in that way. Hexagonal patterns, like a honeycomb.
And then what about when there was mention of the Earth no longer spinning, but instead everything else spinning around the Earth, where the Earth is
not spinning. It's the idea in that sense of what you would term as revolving. So the aspect of the Earth is stationary, but it still spins through your 24-hour cycle, but it does not move. It is a stationary planet.
So the moon and the sun spin around the Earth?
Everything, every orbiting body pertaining to the star system revolves around the Earth, you would say.
And is the sun and the moon as in the dimensions that that we're told, or are they?
The sun is not what you think it is. All right, it is a singularity. It is a living well. It is not a ball of fire. What you see up in that sky, the light and the heat is coming from the Earth. It's not coming from the sun. The sun, in that sense, truly is a cooled well. It doesn't really have any heat at its exterior. It's a plasma, and again, works together with liquid water. So basically what it's doing is it's radiating its own ultraviolet rays, and therefore what it's doing is it's collecting the radiance, as it were, the auric radiance of your own planet, and it's collecting the heat from the planet, and it's collecting it in this particular type of singularity. And it is actually charging your atmosphere. So to the point of orbit to where the sun itself is seen in the sky, it's the light and the heat that you see is coming from the Earth and coming from the Earth's atmosphere. That is not the sun's heat that you're feeling. That's the Earth's heat, and that's the Earth's light that you're seeing and feeling. This is why we say you don't even know what the sun is yet.
And the moon, the same. It's hollow, like it's transparent.
It is a satellite, a hollow satellite holographic display relating to the idea of its surface. It is a hollowed out sphere, as you would say. Yes.
So
but there are, shall we say, certain compartments contained within the interior of the sphere, but relatively, in that sense, somewhat hollow.
So humans haven't been to the moon where they can't stand on it.
We've already talked about this earlier.
Today? Okay, I may have missed it.
All right. We thank you for your questions. We must now conclude. We thank you all for the opportunity of this interaction. We thank you all for allowing us to share this presentation with each and every single one of you today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, infinite appreciation, and infinite joy to all of you. We will now return to the conduit. Goodbye for now. All right. Thank you, Adronis. Much love. Thank you, Zach. And thank you, everybody, for a really great session today. I had a really great time just listening to this in the background as well, too. You guys had some really great questions as well. Hope you guys on YouTube have enjoyed this as well, too. Okay, so the replay recording can be found on my YouTube channel. Okay, everybody on YouTube is watching this right now. So you can go ahead and check up with that. after we're done today. And again, at the end of next month will be a paid webinar. Okay, so it's basically just $5 per person. And like I said, that income is going towards the Healing Code Cards Mind Deck to get printing going, because it is going to be ready around the end of September. Okay. So again, guys, great interaction today. I really enjoyed it. And I look forward, I'm going to have New Earth Teachings webcast tomorrow. All right, Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And I'm going to be doing 2 New Earth Teachings webcasts this week, one on Monday and one on Friday. So you guys can tune into that as well too. All right. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and I'll speak to you again in another perspective than now. Zach, again, thanks again too, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.